Hey guys, welcome back. Nigel's Land Rover channel, and here we are with part 7 of the build of the Land Rover Defender 90 from Tamiya on a CC-01 chassis. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since my last video, I know, but as you know, I've been busy working on my Land Rover and the other channel doing modelling and stuff, and yeah, hope you're all keeping well, hope you're all staying safe and staying in and do what your government tells you to do. But anyway, here we are now with part 7. If you remember, in part 6 we finished off with a bit dusty. We finished off with doing the axle. We did the rear axle and the rear prop shaft and everything, so all our running gear is pretty much done now. So now we're looking at moving into shock absorber city. Now this model, unusually for Tamiya, it's got oil filled shocks. Now a lot of the kits just have like a friction, they'll have like a rubber ring inside the damper and they just rely on friction as damping, but this actually has oil shocks. Now I've seen on the internet that apparently this particular chassis, the CC-01, the suspension is far too hard. It doesn't sort of flex enough, and it's not too good for rock crawling and stuff. It doesn't have a lot of suspension travel anyway. And really, to be honest, this isn't really a rock crawling model. This is basically a Tamiya RC kind of off-road model. It's really for blatting around on lanes and stuff, you know, not rock crawling. I may well get, depending on how much interest there is, I may well get the 3 Racing Land Rover Defender 90, which has got an actual proper metal chassis, proper 2 live axles, 2-speed gearbox, transfer box, everything. It's very much like the real vehicle, so we'll see. I may get that one and build that one on here for you as well. But anyway, enough waffling, let's get on with this, and here we go. So here's our bag of spares, if you remember. So we've got some tools in there and our spare parts, and then we've got everything down in here is going to be in D. So here is bag D. So what we'll do is just nip the top off of this one, and then we can empty this into one of our containers. Now we've got some screws and stuff here. We've got some damper oil. Now for some reason we've got 2 springs out of the packet and 2 springs in the packet. So there are obviously front and rears. Okay, yeah, there are 2 different springs, so we'll have to be careful which is which, and when we get to identifying it, we'll look in, when we get to fitting them, we'll look at what's what. So again, we've got these horrible staples in here. So hope you're all enjoying the build of the real thing as well, guys. This, I'm certainly enjoying it. Sometimes filming it can be a pain when you want the radio on and stuff, but you know, it's good to sort of show the world what you're up to, and it's almost like having a bunch of friends that aren't there really. And as you all know, if you work in a garage, sometimes having friends in the garage is a bit of a pain. So I've emptied that. So we've got our shock oil here, damper oil there. So that's going to stay there. And in here we've got some long screws, 2 springs, and then we've got some separate springs there in that box. So we don't need that yet. What we do need is our damper parts. Now we've got these O-rings down here. You can see there's red ones and black ones. We've got them in there. And then there's these long screws, which are the damper shafts. So I'm going to have to get them out. So what I'm going to do is cut the corner off this bag, and then we'll get the damper shafts out, but leave the springs in the bags, just in case they're difficult to identify. They probably won't be, but we'll see in a minute. Okay, so we need all 4 of those, so there's no point in me putting them in the box. So we need all 4 of those. So we've got those there. We need 8 of the red O-rings, which we've got in here. So I'll grab my tweezers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of those there. Remember, we're working on this section here at the moment, guys. And then we've got the black O-rings. We need 4 of them. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And that's all we need for step 19. So that's what we're going to work on at the moment. Now, we also need the shock bodies, which are on, there's a couple of sprues here. Here we go. So this is a separate little bag, again with these horrible staples. Let's get these out. So these are the W sprues, and there's 4 of them. So you can see on here it says W, and there's 4 of these. So we'll use our nice Tamiya side cutters to remove these. So we need 4 of each of these. So we want W1, which is that little piece there. Okay, so we need 4 of those, so we'll cut all these off. I've just made a video on my other channel. We don't need that bit, do we? Actually, what I'm going to do is cut those off, because we're going to use them in a minute. So I'll cut those off anyway, then we can get rid of the sprue. Yeah, on my other channel, Nigel's Modelling Bench, I've just asked the question, would you guys like to see a video like this one, where I never turn the camera off, and see a Tamiya 1/16 tank, radio controlled tank being built? If you want to join in, let me know. Be interested to know what you think. There we go, we can get those off of there. That one didn't quite cut through. There we go. So now we've got all our plastic parts we need. We also need these D12s, so there's going to be 4 of those. So this is sprue D. So we can get these out. And we can see there's 12 there, so we're going to need 4 of these. This again, this is all this section here, 19. Go. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just clean up these nibs with a knife, just so they look a bit better. Just remove the excess. I'm not going to sand it because it's a soft kind of plastic, and if you sand it, it kind of tears it and leaves a very rough finish. It's almost like a kind of a vinyl-like material. There we go. These are all okay, I think. Yeah, they're fine. And then we're not using those yet. So then, we've got all our parts. So we've got our shock bodies there, caps, end fittings there, and all our rubber rings we need. So, as I say, working here, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 of the red rubber rings, put them in there. Okay, and then we're going to take you see what I mean about Tamiya's moulding capabilities? You know, they've moulded this thread. It's obviously the core of the tool winds out of the thread once it's moulded. It's just incredible moulding. It's just incredible. It's fantastic. So we'll do all 4 of those. Okay, so we'll put these 2 red rubber rings in here. You know, they've moulded this with they've moulded a thread on both parts, and the interface is absolutely perfect, and they screw together beautifully. Amazing stuff. So much better than the likes of, you know, your trumpeters and Italeri, Airfix. There we go, that's them all screwed on. So we've done that step there. Now this step here, we're going to add the shaft. So we're going to push the shaft up through. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little screwdriver, push that shaft up. Okay, and now we've got to fit the rubber O-ring, the black one. It says here it's black, and then we're going to fit one of these end fittings. Now it's telling us here to screw it all the way home, so what we're going to do is screw this on. Okay, now they're telling us to hold the shaft there, but I'm wondering if, no, we can't. I was thinking maybe we could get that out of there, but we can't. So what we're going to do is, I've got a pair of pliers here, and they have no spline in them, so they're not going to damage the shaft. And what I'm going to do is hold the shaft right under the thread there. If you hold it down here and damage it, you will rip those rubber O-rings and get leaks. But if you hold it up here, the shock will probably never go down that far anyway in use. So if you're going to do any damage at all, it's better to damage it up there than it is at the bottom. And we just turn that until it won't go any more. That's all the way in now. There we go. Yes, all the way in. It goes till it stops. So there we are. So let's do these others. Push that into the hole, like so. Push it up with a screwdriver. Fit the black O-ring. Put the end fitting on. Now you see, normally I would turn the camera off now and do 3 of these off the camera, but that's not the whole point of this exercise. We want to do it all together so everyone can see what everyone's doing. So everyone can see what I'm doing. You see, now that slipped then, so it has very likely scratched that shaft. So like I say, it's better to scratch it at the top than at the bottom. There we go, that's that one on. And the third one. Push the piston in, fit the O-ring, fit the end fitting. Like so. Hold the shaft, in fact I'll hold it higher up, make it easier to grip. And the last one. Fit the O-ring. Yeah, as I said, I'm thinking about getting the 3 racing one because I think it will be a far more demanding build. I think it'll be a lot more interesting, especially for you guys to watch, because it is really like a miniature Land Rover. It's you know, the electric motor is where the engine would be. It's got a 2-speed transmission which is bolted onto a transfer box which feeds down to 2 prop shafts. I'm not sure if it's got a centre diff. It doesn't. It has locked diffs. They're not lockable. If you want to go for stuff like lockable diffs, you need to get the Traxxas Land Rover. That's not available as a kit, so you may be able to get it as a kit, I'm not sure, but it's not readily available as a kit anyway. And that for me takes all the fun. I wouldn't want to just go and buy a radio controlled car and use it. I enjoy the building. So we've done step 19 now, so that's all done. So now we can move on to step 20. Now step 20 is, just check you're in the camera still. Yes, you can see what's going on. So it's telling us here about filling these up. Now we need a piece of tissue paper, it's telling us. So get a piece of tissue paper here. This is my blue roll, which is rubbish to be honest. Now this damper oil will probably need to pierce the bottle. Oh no, that surprises me. I'd have thought they would have put that with a, a pierced bottle. So what it's telling us to do is pull down the piston and pour oil into cylinder. Remove air bubbles by slowly moving piston up and down. Pull down piston, attach oil seal and absorb oil overflow with tissue paper. Tighten the cylinder cap. We've got these MD4s, which are these little rubber diaphragms. They're going to go in there to seal. So we need the 4 of those. Okay. So we've got those 4 out there. And we're working on step 20 now. And it's telling us about all the different oils you can get from Tamiya. You don't need to buy the Tamiya oil, you can get anyone's oil. There's lots of different, I've got a few here for different grades, but for this kit we'll just use this one because, as I say, apparently the suspension is too hard anyway for having any proper off-road use with it, but then it doesn't have enough travel. So basically, as a radio control off-roader, it's not very good. There are far better kits on the market. So what it's telling us to do is pull down the piston, okay, and pour oil into the cylinder. Remove air bubbles by moving piston up and down. So what we've got to do is absolutely fill the cylinder up, it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to move this piston up. And then I'm going to pull it down. You can see the air coming out. Move it up, pull it down. And you can see the air bubbles there coming out. What I'll do is I'll do one close up in a minute for you. Okay, so that's all the air out of that one. I'm going to take my paper towel, wrap it around here, fit the diaphragm. Okay, I need a drop more oil by the look of it because it didn't spill. So I'll put a drop more oil in there. Just a drop. There we go, that's more like it. So if the oil spills out, then you know you've got it filled. And then we'll fit this cap. Screw it down. Nice and tight. And then we can wipe the oil off of the shock absorber. And there we go. Worth remembering, guys, with these models, if you are going to use them, when you get back home, if you're keeping it indoors, especially on carpet or anything, make sure it stays sat flat on all 4 wheels. Don't leave it on its side or upside down because this oil may well leak out, and I'm not sure if it'll be very good for your carpet. So there we can see the damper doing its thing. Okay. So that's obviously that diaphragm compressing there. When I push it in, the diaphragm compresses and it's pulling it back out. So if I push the shock absorber up slowly, it probably won't come back out. Oh no, it does, it comes back out wherever. So there we go. So that's one done. Now what I'll do is I'll fill another one up here and then I'll show you the de-airing. Okay, so you can see in there we've got some bubbles. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll move the piston up. You can see as soon as I start moving the piston, the bubbles on the surface pop. Okay, and then when I pull it down, you'll probably see some bubbles form inside. There we go. See some bubbles there coming up. Push it up, pull it down, push it up, pull it down. Just keep doing that until all the bubbles are gone. Go up slowly. There's a little, you can see there, just about sort of 10 o'clock. There's a little group of bubbles that don't want to go away. So let's just try agitating them. There we go. So that's that done, so we can put the diaphragm on now. Let the oil spill out. And then fit the cap. Turn the cap up. There we go. Again, push it up and down. Again, we've got bubbles here that don't want to go away, so we just agitate them and make them break away. There we are. Put the diaphragm on. Fit the cap. That's that one done. And then finally, the last one. Put the oil in. Look at that, no air at all in there. Until I move the piston, then there's obviously air under the piston. And that is basically how a shock absorber works, guys. You can see that on that piston it's got two flats, and what it does is the valves, usually in the real shock absorbers there's holes with flaps, and all it is there's a piston with holes in it, and obviously the oil, the thicker the oil the harder it is to pass through the holes, so the higher the damping, or the larger the holes the oil will go through easier, so the softer the damping. So thin oil, large holes will give you a very soft damper. Thick oil with small holes would give you a very hard damper, and then you get the little magnetic ones and everything that do lots of clever stuff. And then you get the air suspension, which basically pumps up and down. That would be like an air cylinder or a bag. Personally, I don't have much time for that sort of stuff. That wasn't me, that was my dog. My dog is sat on the bench looking out the window to my right. She may bark in a minute if someone walks by. That's what she likes to do. Right, so there we go, that's that one done. So, got a little bit of spare oil there for topping up should we need it. So there we go, there's our 4 shock absorbers. So now we need to look at actually getting them fitted, and we've got some leaking out, oil leaking out of the thread there. That's all that is. It's coming from the thread. There we go. We'll put them over here out the way rather than mess up our instructions. Okay, so we've got to now fit the shock absorbers, build them up and fit them to the front. So step 21 is first the front suspension. So we're going to need MB3 times 2. I shouldn't have put those in there, should I? Put them in there with them. So we're going to need MB3 times 2. So that's these black screws here. MD1 times 2, which is these tiny little silver ones. Oops. Then we're going to need 2 of these washers, which we got here, and 2 front coil springs. Now comes the time we need to identify these springs. So these are the 2 that weren't bagged. So we can see here we've got this spring has 2 coils tightly bound at the end here. Okay, you can see those 2 coils on the end are tightly bound, whereas these are the rear springs and they don't. That's what I've just noticed from the drawings here. So these rear springs, you can see, more bloody staples. So you can see they don't have the tightly wound coils at the end. They're just single coils at the end. So that's what we look for. So we've got those front springs now. So we've got our 2 front springs. So now we can look at putting all this together. So we need D4 and D5, MD6, compressed spring to attach T5. Okay, so you want D4, we want 2 of those. You can cut them off. And then we want 2 of these D5s. Okay, so just check these, give them a little clean up on that nib. Again, I'm not going to sand it because it's that weird plastic. There we go, so we've got those ready now. So we can take a shock absorber, remember they're all the same. So we've got this collar going on first. So this collar is going to go on that way. And then one of these tiny screws is going to go in there. Then we take our small screwdriver and just tighten that screw up. Now this is obviously some sort of spacer, so you could probably move that down and lift the vehicle up if you wanted to. So the spring is going on. Now they're not showing you which way the spring goes, okay, but generally your tighter wound will go at the bottom, so we'll do it that way around. So the 2 tightly wound coils are going at the bottom, and then we just pull the spring back. And then we can take this part, slip it over the shock absorber. We need to make sure that bump stop is up out the way. Okay, I'm sure that, no, that's the wrong way around, Nige. It's that way. You can see we've got a large diameter and a smaller diameter. The smaller diameter fits over there. You see if you put it the wrong way around, you can see it doesn't go over that end piece. So there it goes over, so we can let the spring go. And there's our shock absorber, built up with its damper and everything in it. Okay, so we'll build another one, and just for aesthetics, just to make it look pretty, I'll do this one the other way round. So basically I've got these screws will both face, say, forward, just to make it look neat and tidy. we go. Now we've got, you can see we've got opposites now. We've got left and right. So we get the spring, make sure that O-ring is out of the way, that little bump stop. Put the spring over there, grab our lower spring seat and just drop it on like so. Job done. There we go. Okay, easy as that. Now then, we need to get our chassis, and it's showing us here how to fit this. Got some oil leaked there. So I have to put this the wrong way around, sorry guys, I'll put it on this side. So basically what it's telling us to do is pop this lower mount here is going to go over this brass ball, which is going to be fun, and then the top end is going to be screwed. So what I'm going to do, put the chassis on its side. We'll get this and we'll get a pair of pliers and see if we can squeeze that on. Try and do this so you can see what I'm doing actually. Wow, that's tough. Right, so there we go, that's that on. And then what we're going to do now is put that into this hole here. We've got a hole here on that arm, so that's going to go in there. So we've got to get the screw through the shock absorber, put a washer on the back, and then lift that arm up and push that screw in. We get our bigger screwdriver and screw that in like so. You've got to make sure that screw, that washer, is on the screw. So that's like that. Then we'll do the other side the same. Try and get it so you guys can actually see something. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put the top end in first. So we'll take that and we'll take our washer. Put that in the hole. I do believe I've got a dog hair there. Although these days I see a white hair and I think, oh, that's a dog hair, but then it could be one of mine. But then if it's more than 3mm long, it's generally not mine. Right, so we're going to now put this on here. I'm going to try and do this so you can see what I'm doing. Just get these big pliers and squeeze that on there like that. There we go. If you notice, I've got both those screws in there facing forward. So now we've got our front suspension. It's also telling us to connect up these steering arms, but if you remember, I did that previously because to me it seems daft having those steering arms just flapping around while you're building the rest of the model. So how are we doing for time, guys? 35 minutes. So what we'll do now, we'll go on and fit these rears because we've got the parts out, and then we'll call it a day for this video. So we need the 2 rear springs, and then we're probably going to need everything that's in this box. So we've got 2 little screws, the 2 top hat spacers, and the 2 3x15 screws there. Okay, and this is what we're doing now is step 22 here. So again, we're going to use these D4s. So what they're telling here is not for ride height, it's to increase the spring stiffness. So I don't think you're going to want to increase the spring stiffness. In fact, it may be worth trying this without these parts fitted, because that will make the spring softer. So of course, yeah, when you push down on the top of the spring, it won't change the ride height. Well, it might do if the springs actually sag at all with the weight of the truck on them. So what I'm going to do this time is put these screws in just to start them. Should make life a little bit easier for us. If I had some nails I could pick that screw up. Okay, so we'll do the same again. We'll have that round like that. And pull that screw down. And then we'll have this one the other way round. Like that, pull that screw down. Okay, so there we go. Whoops, I've pulled that down, so there we are. So that's those two fitted, that's those two D4 and MD1 parts fitted. So now, as before, we need to fit the spring, but first of all I need these D5 spring cups, spring seats should I say. Get them. Where's my knife gone? Here it is. Just give these a little clean up. Okay, so they're fine. So we can take the spring. Now remember, it doesn't matter which way these go up because they're the same. Same on either end, should I say. Move the bump stop out of the way. And then we can slide that part over, let the spring go. Again, pull the shock absorber out. Move the bump stop out of the way, slide the spring on, and fit the spring seat. Here we go. So that's those two shock absorbers built up. Again, we've got left and right, so our plastic part is empty. We don't get any spares with this step. So now we've got to fit this to the rear axle. So what we're going to do is take one of these screws. We're going to have that facing forward. This part here is going to be facing forward. So we're going to put this screw in this way. This is going to be the right hand side, the left as you're looking at it now. We're going to fit this top hat in here this way so that the spring is actually working on the top hat. Okay, and then that is going to screw into this hole in here, which is going to be easier said than done. Take my screwdriver. Keeping it nice and straight. Just wind the screw in. Like so. And now we've got to somehow snap this on there. That is not going to be easy. So we'll turn it on its side. We've got to snap that shock absorber onto that bolt. Wow, that is really tough. If you're a small person, get some big person to come and do that for you. So again, we'll do this one. Now we want that forward, so we'll put the screw through. Put the top hat through there. We'll line this up in that screw hole. Like so. This is getting more and more difficult to hold it and do it so that you can see what I'm doing, guys. I'm really sorry. There we go. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing now. Just pull that down until it stops. Remember, you don't want to be stripping the threads out. And again, we'll put it on its side. Make sure that D4 screw is facing forwards, and then we can snap that on. And now we've got suspension. So you can see we've got our rear suspension working and everything. Now, one of the things I've seen online with this, the problem with the rear axle, it's all quite floppy. As you can see, there's a lot of floppiness in it, and you can get upgrades to improve all that. We don't have a hell of a lot of travel on the front, and it is, as you can see, it's very tough. Most RC models you would be able to that would just fall around, you know. If I get that other one, you'll see what I mean. So I'm just going to wipe off now because I've got oily fingers from those dampers. I've managed to get oily fingerprints on here. So there we go. So that's our suspension all done. So we can put that to one side, move our tools out of the way, and see what's coming next. Oh, great. So part 8 is going to be setting up all the radio gear. So there's a good one for you. You'll enjoy that. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit. I know it's been a bit repetitive because it's 4 of the same thing, but you know, like I said at the beginning, I'm turning the camera on and I'm not turning it off. I'll see you all for part 8. Bye for now.